Hey guys, I am going to just show us a quick update on what's going on with Draw2Paint. This is my logo. It's all crazy. Yeah, delete it. Okay, so what's going on with this add-on is that my friend Patrick made a really cool version a long time ago, and I'm not smart enough to do that. So I've begun like creating another one here that just basically works, and I'm learning more about Python and how things work internally in Blender as I go. I wanted to give a quick overview of how this works. Some of these tools are specific macros for the way I work. Maybe nobody else really needs them, but this is all about entertainment purposes and educational purposes. So the kicker for the behind the scenes with this is the first one, you actually have to enable the images as planes add-on. And so that's how this works here. The first button is actually just operating the same way as everything else does. I'm going to bring in one of these cardinals to work on just as an example. I usually set it to shadeless, import it, and I've got it in screen. Right now we've got this set to flat and texture so we can see it correctly. If we were working here, we would want to make sure we were then looking at our color management. And while I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and just flip back to standard. That's exactly what we need to work here. I have my workspace set up where out of camera you can see grids that almost match to pixels. That's something I want to look at as being a toggle or a slider to work on. Maybe even match it to the count of pixels so that I could actually have it adjust every time, so that when like working through a grid, it'd be easier to do pixel paint. Okay, so being that as it may, I'm going to go back to this main screen. I'm going to go to camera view paint, and it should shift back to the other one. And the outside of the camera is a little darker. You'll know it's in camera because it says camera view paint. And if you look over here on the outliner, you'll see that the object that we're painting on is called canvas, and that contains the mesh and the material there. So you can paint here, and if you hit this operator, reload image, what it does is it fools in the background, it switches to a 2D image editor and refreshes the image and comes back to the 3D view. So that's what happens there. You can save the image, but the save increment is not working correctly, and that's because I do not know as much about Python as my friend. So I'm going to have to learn a little bit more before I can get that working. When we get to canvas controls, these controls are outside of camera. I should have put that on the little tip. But inside camera, actually, flip X and flip Y do work, and that really comes into play when you're painting or drawing and you're trying to make sure that you're seeing things correctly, and you can examine better. Now out of camera, so we press the camera button, we'll go back here. We should be able to, sometimes one of the bugs in it is even if it shows selected, the camera was the last thing dealt with, so you might have to right click on your canvas, then you can use the 90 degrees, or you can turn around and actually flip around on the clockwise or counterclockwise. And if you get to the point where you want to go back to normal, hit reset rotation, it should clear everything and get back to center. This one called guide controls. This is, I know everybody can, this is specific to me. This is something I like to do. So I add a guide. I'll go ahead and go back to camera though. I add a guide, And what that is this object. Right now it's set to center. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to put it right at the eye, and I hit it again, and it'll now, you see the relationship lines have disappeared because it's zeroed to the position it's at. And if I turn on X for symmetry, and I can draw like this, turn on Y, I can do this. Now the Z doesn't come into play until I'm working on 3D objects, and I'm not really there yet with the add-on. But you get an idea of what's going on here. Now, what about getting it back the way it needs to go? Pretty much there. Recenter guide. And then if you hit guide again, you'll see the relationship line that goes away. You can turn off symmetry. And at that point, if you want to, you can either just turn it off and call it back, or you can delete it if you want to. Because now we're back to where we were. Not really doing any serious painting today. This is just for example. Okay, reset, and we're back into the next one. Mask controls. These are some simple little things for aligning multiple masks if you're using some squares or something like that. And yeah, so I forgot to make something that would be more of a primitive scaled to the camera. So if I make a plane, it'll actually be way outside. So gotta go to object mode. I'm going to add a mesh plane, scale it down. Now you can see what I'm talking about. I've got to bring it up in Z. Still inside camera. And we'll pretend like we're dealing with multiple masks. I know that doesn't make any sense at the moment, but this is what I was trying to show with these boxes. So I'll duplicate this, and again, with all three selected, this is a very simple version of stuff that's available. I'm gonna, with this icon, it shows the ball at the bottom. It'll line up there. If I set them to the center, it'll line across the center. Here at the top, it's useful, but it might not be everybody's cup of tea. So I'm going to get rid of those. I've got this one mask I've decided I'm going to keep. I've left it in place. So I want to show how some of this stuff works. First of all, let me see if this one works. Yep. I got the canvas material onto it. Now you'll see it's actually wrong because look, it's showing the whole thing. So I'm going to use this reproject. I had to hit it twice, and unfortunately that's just the way it is right now. But it works as a mask for the painting, and we can reload. And so if I want to reposition, I can grab it, put it over here. I'll say I want to work on this and scale up a little bit, as long as it's still inside camera. Maybe rotate. Okay. Then I can reproject, hitting it twice, of course, and now you'll see the paint is staying inside the mask. And that's pretty simple, but you're kind of wondering, okay, that's not really what I had in mind. So I've been working on something else. I'm going to reload the image. Okay, this part I really like. Okay, while I'm in texture paint here in the view in the camera, we can do this. We can draw with this, we hit the draw curve, we're already in the proper tool, and I'm going to draw an actual curve. Say I just want to work inside this area, and now we've got this. Well, I'm going to hit that, give it the canvas material. Now we need to hit reproject, and see, we've got a custom mask in place. I used to do this with grease pencil, but I've found that I'm having a lot of problems with the improvements to the grease pencil as a tool itself. Have got to the point where I'm not really sure how to go about making something work the way I want it to. So for now, we're going to just use the curves, and this works fine for me. It really does. I also want to show you a different thing that's possible. So we're going to go to the draw curve again, and we're going to pretend like we're working on making a brush where we need to cut out part of it. And I've got that, and I'm going to, I think I'm overlapping another curve. Yes. So temporarily, object mode, grab Z a little bit, go back to camera. With that selected, I'm going to go back to edit mode. With that selected, I'm going to go hold out material, and you'll see that we now have transparency. If we go to cycles, we should see the material. Oh, I know what I did wrong. This is one of the things that I have to remember. Turn on transparency. If you want to see it in cycles, you're going to need to turn on transparency for film. That way you can see what you've done. Now, you may kind of wonder, how useful is this? Well, if I go to selection mode instead of the draw mode there in the tools, I can now select one, bring it over here, start moving things about. And you're actually seeing the results almost in real time. And you don't have to work there. You can go back to whatever works fastest and is easiest. But now if I render through the camera, we've actually created a PNG with some transparency around it. So theoretically, I could work around, get rid of, with several different pieces, I could get rid of, with holdout shaders, I could get rid of almost everything here except for the bird, and then make a brush out of it. That's kind of what I want to show. But I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to get rid of this mask too. I'm going to reload my image. Now there's a couple of other things here, the copy and erase and the LiquidSculpt. So I'm going to see if it works. I haven't tested it out very well. Okay, so now I'm using, I hope, an eraser, yes. So I'm going to erase most of the background around my bird. Sorry if I get quiet. It's difficult to maintain a conversation with nobody while you're thinking inside your head. And, you know, we'll see what happens. Okay, so I think that should be good enough. Now we'll go to LiquidSculpt, and it looks like everything's fine, right? We're technically looking at a copy with its own iteration of the texture without having saved it, and we've painted out part of it. So let's go back to camera. We are now in the grab, so I'll just grab my little buddy here a little bit. giving them a little bit of a big head. And now here is where I want to see if I can do. Okay, so turn that up. I wonder if I could give him a modifier. Multi-resin, simple. I guess it got rid of my sculpting. Nope, got rid of my image. Okay, so that was not going to work. Okay, but you see the idea. Basically, I can, yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm giving them the big eye. And so my bird is very, very curious. He wants to know what's going on. This is just an experimental thing I do sometimes when I'm having fun. I'll change textures. So if I'm working on a brush, maybe I want to do something like this where I want to manipulate part of it, but I don't want to lose everything. I don't want to start off from scratch. So I'll do this kind of thing with like damage, burn holes, scratches, things like that. So I can create some manual variations. So I can mix the brushes together as like a sequence. You can make a texture sequence of 3-4 images and then use that as a brush, a texture in Blender, and then you can cycle through the images with your left and right arrow keys, and it's pretty cool. It does work, though the improvements to Blender have made it a little bit more difficult to get things like that to work sometimes. So I'm not really promising the world on that one, but that is the bulk of what's going on with that. So like I said, that iteration, you can render it out and get your image and save that. And then, like I said, this I can just delete and go back to my camera. I have my original image still to work. These are extras. There's a couple things I'm working on right now that are still not ready. There's a couple of things that are carryovers, and I'm trying to get to that. I've got remove modifiers button for when I finally get the subtract and join working. Those are Boolean tools to take a mask away from another mask. The create brush operator makes a new scene. So if I do that, right now it's giving me a problem because there's part of the code's wrong. If I do that, so I got a new scene, brush 001, and it's a full copy. But I think, yeah, I think it's a full copy right now. I don't want to delete that, so I'm going to just get rid of the scene and go back to the main scene. Still a work in progress. Anyhow, hopefully that makes sense. I was telling people before also, not part of my add-on. This is actually part of the tools that are default built-ins. But you have this brush. I think there is a workspace. Okay, I think that it's actually found dynamic brush menus. So if I turn that off, it's off. But if you turn dynamic brush menus, if you turn dynamic brush menus on, then you get this really cool ability to check everything and see everything. You know, it's just very, very, it's very good to work with. Yeah, just past the 20-minute mark. All right. Thank you much, and let me know how it goes.